The Middle East continues to be a sometimes volatile situation that certainly has everyone's interest. In this past week at Union University, we have had a gentleman who is quite an expert on Middle Eastern affairs. He is the head of history and the professor of history at University of Central Florida, and he's with us right now, Dr. Wayne Bowen. Dr. Bowen, nice to have you with us.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Let's talk a little bit about this. Part of the lecture that you brought here was called Iraq, Antiquities in a Time of War. Now, for the average person at home, explain to them what antiquities are.
So antiquities are both archaeological sites as well as the artifacts, the statues, written scrolls, things along those lines that are at those historical sites. So it's all the cultural treasures in the region, in this case in Iraq.
Before we get more deeper into some of the Middle Eastern situations, let's talk about this. How did you get interested? What motivated your interest into this particular area of research?
Well, it was really the Army's fault, not my own volition. I'm in the Army Reserve, have been for 27 years, and in 2003 I was deployed to Iraq as part of a civil affairs unit. And noting my civilian background as a historian, the battalion commander said, I'm going to make you in charge of universities and also antiquities and archaeological sites. So that's how I got into this area. It wasn't really my own choice, but it turned out to be a happy convergence between my civilian expertise and military necessity of the moment.
In about a decade ago, we had Stephen Churchill, also known as Winston Churchill III, to appear at a scholarship banquet here in Jackson at Union University. And he talked about doing research into his grandfather's speeches to the House of Commons. And he said at that point in time, nearly 90 years ago, that his grandfather said, at some point, the world is going to have to come together and acknowledge the most severe threat of Islamic fascism. Where are we with that today? Because it seems like there are some elements in the world and even in our country who just don't believe it's that much of a threat.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'd say that there is a wide range of views within the Middle East about what Islam means and what the relationship should be between the state and the individual and the faith of Islam. I think that as the United States looks to the region, we need to identify states that we can partner with effectively. So places like Morocco and Jordan that have a similar concern about Islamic terrorism, that have been on the front lines fighting against the Islamic State and Al Qaeda and other states. Fortunately, the Islamic State is losing ground and has been. I'll talk about that a little bit tonight. But I think there will be an ongoing threat within the region from the most radical of perspectives. But I think that the primary victims have been traditionally Muslims of their fellow Muslims. If you look at the attack on the World Trade Center, the 3,000 Americans that died in that, over 200,000 have died in the Syrian civil war. So if you certainly put that in perspective, they're far more likely victims of Islam than we are. So of the most radical interpretations of it.
As people view this, your presentation will have already been held. So let's deal with this. If you can give us just some key thumbnails of what you shared with the audience at Union University in your lecture.
Right. So the main point of my talk is to discuss some of the efforts that we made in 2004 to help the Iraqis revive their archaeological legacy and help to restore some of their antiquities that have been neglected in some senses by the regime of Saddam Hussein, in other cases used by the government to buttress the basis for Saddam's rule.
What really are you looking forward to in future research that you hope to be able to accomplish?
So I've always been primarily a historian of Spanish history. The Middle East came to me, again, because the Army sent me there. And I've taught Middle East history and enjoyed it. But the next book will be about Spain and the Reformation. Most accounts of the Reformation talk about Lutheranism in Germany and the Church of England, Anglicanism, maybe Calvinism in France. Spain is kind of left out of the picture, except as on the other side, as being the primary promoter of hardline Catholicism against this new movement. But I'm looking at the Reformation inside Spain, as well as the way that it transformed the the Spanish government as kings like Philip II reacted to the Reformation, and trying to bring Spain into the Reformation as a full actor, not just an empire that reacted to it. So that's the next area of research.
Dr. Bowen, pleasure to have you with us, and please come again here to Jackson.
Thank you.